Welcome to edusati.com, your partner in education. The session deals with the concept of idioms. Now, this is a very important topic for the people who are appearing in the law entrance tests. Likely, it is also important for the people who are preparing for Staff Selection Commission examinations because we can expect two or three questions. Whereas the people who are preparing for law entrance tests, you'll be getting 5 to 7 questions based on the same concept. Now, before we proceed to discuss the various types of idioms in this session, let us discuss what exactly is an idiom. We all know what is an idiom. Idiom is nothing but a metamorphical phrase that we use in a sentence. And whenever we are using it, we really do not intend to use it for its literal meaning, but for an implied meaning. Now, for example, I say, I feel over the moon. Now, if I have stated this thing, it does not mean that I feel that I'm standing on the moon and I really sense no gravity there. But if I'm saying that I feel over the moon, I intend to say that I'm feeling as like I've reached over the moon and I'm very happy being there. Because everybody's childhood dream, rather, is that he or she wants to visit the moon for once. And that much happiness as when I reach the moon for actual, uh, as much happiness I would get then is something that I'm actually driving right now. So if I say I feel I'm over the moon, it means that I'm very happy. It's a very highly elated state. Now you can sense that I actually used this idiom for not for its actual meaning, not for its literal meaning, but for its implied meaning. This is the concept of idioms. These are the phrases or the parts of sentences that have an implied meaning attached to them, and you usually use them in a sentence so as for their implied meaning actually. But the most problematic thing that we have is that we really have like thousands and crores of idioms in the language, and it is really impossible for us to memorize all of them because every now and here there is another idiom that crops up, and it becomes very tricky and difficult for us to memorize that and add it to our dictionary. So, what is the trick? How can we memorize the meanings of the idioms? Because if we get a question based on idioms, it'll be very beneficial. Like, how would we, find the meaning of this idiom? These are the two tricks that you can use to memorize the meanings of these idioms. Rather, these are not the tricks, but a discussion by which you can, estimate the meaning. One thing that if you know the story behind an idiom, that why is this idiom framed, like how was it framed, you'll be able to memorize its meaning very, very conveniently. Now, for example, this idiom, raining cats and dogs, it is used for the, that situation where it's a cloud burst, right? So it's usually used for a cloud burst when there's a lot of rain and it's a downpour sort of a thing. The water is just it's heavy raining. It's somewhat like a cyclone. So we use this idiom called raining cats and dog. There's a story attached to it that once at a place there was so heavy rains that the stray dogs and cats died and their bodies started flowing on the inundated water. Now, from there, we have derived this idiom saying raining cats and dogs, which signifies the meaning that it's raining so heavily that the water has inundated the roads, and now the stray dogs and cats and other animals are going to die, and their bodies are going to float over this water. So, from there, we have derived the meaning of raining cats and dogs. But again, this is not a very good technique to memorize the meanings of these idioms because how many of such stories can you retain? It'll be even more cumbersome for you to retain the stories and then interpret the meaning of the idioms. A better way is to basically relate it to the literal meaning and try and guess the meaning of the idiom. Now, for example, I'll take this idiom itself that says rubs shoulders with, and I use it as in a sentence. I say Bob uh, rubs his shoulders with influential people. Now, imagine yourself visiting a party and you meeting there with like you going there and meeting so many different people. Now, obviously, when you're meeting people, there might be chances that you have a physical touch with them wherein your shoulders touch each other's shoulder. Now, this can only happen if you know that person. Now, obviously, if you don't know a person, it is rarely a chance that you actually go and collide into that person, and there's a chance of a physical touch with that person. If there's a physical touch, if there are are the chances of physical touch with some other person, that is only when you know the person, right? And you know whom, your social circle, right, or your friends, or your colleagues from the office or something. So if I use this literal meaning to estimate the meaning of this idiom that says rubs shoulders with, I'd say that if somebody rubs his shoulders with influential people, this means that he has contacts with those people, because he can only rub his shoulders with the other people uh, when he knows them. So if he has contacts with other people, he can rub his shoulders. So this idiom basically signifies that if I've used this in this sentence, I'd say that Bob rubs his shoulders with influential people. That means he has approach to influential people, or he has contact with influential people. Rather, this is a better method of to memorize the meanings of the idioms and try and interpret their meanings, right, in the examination. So, what are we going to do in this entire session is that we're going to discuss so many different idioms and try and make the keys related to these idioms and try and guess and interpret the meanings. Small advice to you: whenever you get along so many different idioms, try and relate them to their literal meanings and try and estimate their meanings, right? That'll help you. This practice is going to help you, and as much as you practice, you'll be more comfortable doing that in your examination. Let's take the uh, first category of idioms, and let us discuss certain idioms that relate to your health. Now, if I say I feel under the weather, this means that I am not very well. How can you memorize this? Under the weather. Um, Usually people develop these symptoms of flu or cold or viral whenever there's a weather change, right? And imagine yourself under something that I've kept a big thing on you, and you're basically uh, you're stuck beneath that thing. Now, how would you feel? You'll feel very confined. You'll feel very uncomfortable. So I've thrown the changing weather's effect on you. Now you're feeling uncomfortable, right? So the changing weather's effect is seen on you, so you're not feeling very well. So this is how you can memorize the meaning of under the weather. Under the weather means that the person is not feeling very well. Looking like death warmed up. Now, many of us do this exercise, are into exercising or games or sports, right? Now, before playing a sport or playing a game, we usually have a warm up exercise. Why is that done? That is done basically to, get prepared for the hefty things, right? And we warm up before we actually start practicing something that is physical. Now imagine death warming up. Death is warming up. Why? Because it wants to attack you, right? So if somebody says that he looks like death warmed up, that means he's looking so ill, so pale, that the next stage is that he's gonna die. So he's looking fatal. It seems that he's gonna die soon. So it looks like that death warmed up. Felt of color. Now imagine of certain or the other paintings that are very old. Now, what happens is that if you look at these paintings, you're going to see and actually, feel that the colors have faded away, right? And since they've faded away, they do not look as refreshing as they used to do when they were new, right? So if somebody feels off color, that means he feels that it's similar to it's fading away, right? That is, he's feeling a little unwell or uneasy. On the road to recovery, this is self explanatory. If somebody's on the road to recovery, that means he's getting better, he's taking medication. As fit as a horse. Now, horse is taken to be a very, very fit, very strong animal. And if somebody is as fit as a horse, that means he's completely fine. He's ready to do anything, and he's completely okay, right? Next, we have recharge his batteries. Again, a very self explanatory idiom that says to do something to gain energy. Now, I am going to Shimla to recharge my batteries, that I'm going to do anything that's going to revitalize me. So, recharging the batteries. Now, why do we recharge the batteries? So as they gain energy, right? So as this electrical energy is stored in them. So if I'm recharging my batteries, I am storing my energy. I'm restoring on my energy. So I'm recharging my batteries. Likewise, let us take certain examples and discuss the idioms that relate to happiness. The first idiom that we have in this category is I am on the seventh heaven, or cloud nine, or top of the world, or over the moon. Now, we've already discussed the meaning of over the moon. Now, this is some these all these idioms are they have the same meaning, right? Another idiom that you can put up here is that you feel in the Eden's garden. It's another idiom that means the same. Now, as like over the moon, we've already discussed that you feel that you're deriving so much of happiness, as much happiness you would have derived if you were actually on the moon, right? This is something equal. Eden's garden. Eden's garden was the place where Adam and Eve lived. So that is said to be the replica of paradise. Right? Imagine yourself in paradise. That's something that everybody wants. It's something like self-actualization, right? So Eden's garden, it means that you're feeling or you're deriving as much happiness as much you would derive if you actually reach the Eden's garden. Same goes for over the moon. Top of the world. That is, there's nobody else above you in this entire world. So you are the supreme there. And being supreme is something that everybody wants. So you feel top of the world. That is, you feel accomplished, that you have done, and you've done something that is really impeccable, and nobody can match you, and so you feel very very accomplished and you feel very happy. Cloud nine, again, this is something that many mythologies say that cloud nine is the place where God lives, right? Or seventh heaven, again, it's the place where God lives, right? So if you're on the seventh heaven or cloud nine, you're feeling that you are again at the supreme place, a place where everybody actually wants to be. Everybody wants to go and find salvation and live with the God, right? And God lives on the cloud nine or seventh heaven. So that's something that you're deriving the as much happiness as much you'll derive if you were on the seventh heaven or cloud nine. Now, so we come across that all these idioms say to be I'm on seventh heaven or on the top of the world or Eden's garden or over the moon or cloud nine. They all mean that you are feeling very very happy. They signify your highly elated state. Let us discuss the meaning of get a kick from something. Now, imagine that you're playing football or rugby or any other such game, any ball game. Now, whenever you kick a ball, what actually happens? If I have to explain it to you in the scientific manner, I'd say your kinetic energy changes the potential energy of the ball into the kinetic energy. So, your energy is transferred to the ball, and when you kick the ball, that ball shoots. Right? Now, if somebody kicks you, what happens? It happens the same. His kinetic energy is impulsively, you know, transferred to you, and since it's transferred to you, you feel a little shaken up. You feel that power, that punch being transferred, and this is something that happens then, right? Now, if something gives you kick in the positive manner, that is, it leaves you full of energy. It impulsifies a lot of energy into you. That too in a moment, right? So, as with a snap of the finger, it's similar. That like a snap of the finger, you just feel that you're filled with energy. So, if you get a kick from something, that is, you feel very excited. Jump of joy, which means feel excited again. Now, where does it come from? Imagine yourself when a little back, like 20 or 10 years back, when you were a small kid. And whenever your parents gave you a gift or an unexpected present, what did you do? You started jumping on the sofas or the beds and started clapping out of excitement, right? So if somebody is jumping because of joy or jumping off joy, that means he's feeling very excited. Why? Because then if you got a present, an unexpected present, you were filled with joy and you felt excited to open it and use it, right? So same goes here as well. Made my day is something that is usually used very common. It's a commoner idiom. It is that you feel extremely happy due to a reason. So that reason makes your day, right? Now we move to the next category of sadness and we'll discuss certain idioms that relate to sadness. The first comes as out of sorts or feeling blue. Both of them mean feeling unhappy, slightly unhappy. Blue is the color that relates to darkness. It relates to sadness. So that is from where we derive the meaning of this idiom. If I discuss out of sorts now, there's an assortment of sequence of something, anything, and I disturb the sequence. What would be the result? The result would be a chaos. So if somebody disturbs your personal sequence, that is the sequence of your conscience or the sequence of your conscious, you feel a little chaotic, or since you feel chaotic, you feel a little unhappy. Down the dumps. Now imagine again, if I throw a lot of dump on you, what would be the result? You'll feel very unhappy and uncomfortable. So if you're feeling down the dumps, that is, you're feeling very unhappy. End of the world. If something, like end of the world is like apocalypse, and that is described as the most painful event that is going to happen in the future, right? So that as much pain apocalypse would give you, that much pain, if any other thing gives you like a little equal to that much of pain, that event causes feels like end of the world. So the mother's death made me to feel that it was the end of the world, right? So that becomes that causes great unhappiness, as much as it would be when apocalypse happen. Puts a damper on. Now, damper is a wet cloth that is used to wipe off the stains, basically. And if somebody puts a damper on, that is, he's wiping off the happiness from anything. This is usually used for people who are habitual of nagging and, crying and crying every time, especially when there are occasions of happiness. So if I say Bob always puts a damper on, especially in the marriages, or Bob put a damper on in my marriage, I mean to say that he started doing something that stops the occasion from being more enjoyable. Just grin and be red. Grinning is a very broad smile wherein it's said that your whole jawline is visible to the other person. It's basically a condolence that we usually give to the people that you cannot help this thing, this situation. So it's better that you take it as it comes and bear with it. So just smile and bear with it. This is what we mean, and it's very self-explanatory. Just grin and bear it. Again, let us discuss certain idioms that relate to anger. Fed up. This is something all the teachers usually use. Fed up is feeling annoyed. It's something that we all know, right? The next is at the ends of my wits. Wits are basically used to justify your level of knowledge or level of self control or something. If something actually nudges you so much that you're on the verge of bursting out, that thing takes you to the end of your wits, right? So you have exhausted so much of your brains into to deal with somebody or some situation that now if that situation reoccurs or that person again comes across you, you're gonna burst out in anger. So that person has driven you to end of your wits. Have throw a fit. Fit has two meanings, one that we all know, and the other is a block that usually is inserted in another game. In the childhood, you might have played a game which was somewhat similar to a jigsaw puzzle, and a part of this jigsaw puzzle is called a fit. right? Now, usually it's made of plastic or any wood or any hard material. And if I throw it to you, what will you? How would you feel? Now, if it actually comes and you know bangs your head, it's gonna give you a lot much of pain or trauma or something like that. Right now, if I use it in the metamorphical form, I'm not actually throwing something on you. I'm actually bursting out in anger. I've started shouting on you in anger. Right? When would you throw a fit on somebody else? When that person has annoyed you to the high extremes of the levels. Right? Now, that goes on for the metamorphical meaning as well, or the implied meaning as well. If I threw a fit on you, that means you basically irritated me so much that I suddenly bursted out in anger and I started shouting or yelling at you. The other idiom that we can discuss is someone's blood is up, or my blood is up, or your blood is up, or his blood is up. Anybody's blood is up. Blood is up. Now, blood is up means it's more of like related to hypertensive situation of your blood pressure. More, it's boiling. The blood is boiling, right? And if I have to discuss it, no, why would my blood start boiling, or I would have a hypertensive blood pressure? The reason is if something happens, leaves me annoyed, and I'm so annoyed that now my blood pressure has risen up, and since my blood pressure has risen up, uh, I am becoming more violent. Now, if you've ever met a person who has this blood pressure problem, you're gonna see that whenever he gets a fit or an attack or a seizure of this blood pressure, he usually gets more restless. He starts panting or gasping, and he starts yelling more often. He has a red face and something. He starts sweating, right? Why? These things also happen when you get violent, right? So if somebody's blood is up, that means he's now feeling extremely annoyed and violent. Out for blood. Now, this is something that you can relate to your mythological things. There's this story about Bhim, one of these Pandavas from the Hindu mythological Mahabharata. He made a pledge that the person who disgraced his wife, he's gonna kill that person and drink his blood. So in the entire Mahabharata scene, it said that he was fighting for the blood of that person, right? Right. So this idiom you can relate it there, and what was his agenda of drinking the blood? That he seeked revenge. So if somebody is out for blood, that means that person is seeking revenge.